Hello, everyone. Another book club with women on the move. And today is May 2nd. The year is 2024. And we'll start with introductions. And the last person who will be introducing herself is actually tonight's host. So when she introduces herself, she has the platform. So I'm Cindy.
And I'm Zadie.
I'm Vivian.
And I'm Sam. Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight's book is The Nigerwife, and I found it a quick, interesting read to begin with. But one of the things that I found in it, and I wanted to know if anybody else saw it, was the foreshadowing that started the book out. When it started out with foreshadowing, did you ever reach an aha moment? And what were the aha moments that you reached? And how did you feel about the foreshadowing? Did you see what was coming, what the foreshadowing was foreshadowing, or what was about to come? Did it spark your curiosity?
No.
No, I thought it was, I didn't know what I was getting into when I first got into it and started listening to it. I couldn't understand what was happening.
Okay.
That's the same with me until I went back and read it again.
Yes.
And then you could pick it out. But the first time I didn't know.
What I found that was very interesting was the little girls on the airplane with Claudine. That was foreshadowing, but I had no idea why they weren't there until after you were pretty much halfway in the book before you really realized that.
And this book went back and forth, just like the last apothecary.
Yes.
I don't know if I said that correctly.
Yes, you did.
It did go back and forth, but it stayed in the current era, which was good for me. It was in current era, so it was back and forth. It was like Claudine before, Claudine after, Nadine before, Nicole before, and Nicole after. And I think after was after the event where she went missing. In talking about that, do you think throughout the book, Tonye kind of felt a little detached, and considering everything that was going on with his family, do you think his actions were normal, reasonable, or acceptable?
I thought it was apropos for his culture.
Yes. Yes, but for American culture, it was like he was so detached.
Yes.
From his family.
He was. That's what I felt too, that he was really detached, but that's how everyone was there. Very detached. Everybody lied. I was like, oh my goodness.
There was a lot of deception going on.
Yeah.
There was a lot of deception going on. His family, they tried to keep Nicole's disappearance a secret. Do you think that because of their culture, because of their place in society, that had anything to do with it? Or do you think it was just because of what they had going on that they didn't want anybody to know about it?
Status. And they were probably private, but their status, I think it had all to do with their status and they were full of themselves and they wanted to keep that. I don't want to call it a facade because but they wanted.
It was.
Okay. They wanted to keep that facade because there was a lot of, oh my gosh, it's like, can you imagine having those in-laws and you're living in the house and your husband is like, he has no backbone. I mean, he's just, he's trying to think of a nice word. He's emasculated.
Right.
Yes.
By his father.
Right. And another reason I think they kept it quiet because they wanted to get his sister married. And if there was any kind of scandal, the person wouldn't marry her. So they wanted to make sure they got her married before all this came out.
Right.
And she was marrying somebody that had was richer than they were.
Right.
They were a little higher up on the social status rung. Do you think that, what do you think about Claudine said she thought she let Nicole down? Having learned about Claudine and Nicole's past with Lynn, do you think her search for Nicole was motivated by guilt, love, or a mixture of both?
I think it was a mixture of both.
I do too.
And reconciliation. I think she wanted to reconcile with Nicole. I think she felt guilty because she sacrificed Nicole really to try and keep that guy, and he didn't want her anyway. And she loved her, but she didn't understand how much she loved her until she was gone.
Right.
And then it was, oh my gosh, she really was I really was her mother. And it's sad because she kept alluding to Claudine did it and Nicole did it, talking about what was really love. They saw such dysfunction. They didn't really realize what it was.
Their mother didn't love, their mother was hard. She was hard on all of them. So they didn't really know what it was.
Right. And Nicole didn't think that her mother, who died of an overdose, loved her either.
Right.
And you know, a lot of times parents can pit their children against each other. And I don't know that they intentionally do it, but I had a lady recently tell me how her parents did an excellent job of creating competition within the siblings. And, you know, parents are up in age and the siblings are still so competitive because that's what their parents instilled in them, that competitiveness, and that was most important. But the relationships as adults, it's like it suffered. It's like they aren't close to each other because they're competing. Who can be better? Who can make more money? Who can do more and have more?
Right.
Well, and another thing, with Tume's family, there was a definite class system. Their class was above their servants or workers, but below this family that the sister was going to marry into. And they were, in order for them to keep their class, they wanted to make sure that all scandals stayed out of the mainstream or news stream, so to speak.
Correct. And then in a lot of those cultures too, in other countries, everything, people are in everybody's business. You know, it's not private. So it's, you know, it's like, it's hard to keep things private because everybody's talking about everybody and, you know, they're bragging and they're telling what they have. It's just a culture where people are sharing a lot and embellishing. But then, you know, it's the less you share, the better, because you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. But in a lot of cultures, it's like that's the way it works.
And another thing there, you really don't know who your friends are. She
Right.
Surely don't.
Right.
I mean, no one was really loyal to her. No one, but Claudine maybe.
Nobody was anybody's friend.
Well, no one in Nigeria.
Yeah, because Kimmy was sleeping with
her husband.
With her husband. I was like, and this your girl?
I know.
I know.
And then it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's like, whoa.
Well, you know, and Nicole, one of the things that she repeatedly said or she said several times that nobody really cared about her.
Yes.
She could spend the whole day in her pajamas and nobody would care because everything would be done. So do you think that her in-laws ever really liked her or really accepted her?
No.
No, I think they just tolerated her.
Right.
Well, there was a point when she got the job, the mother-in-law spoke up for her and took her side and said that was a good thing.
They just wanted the 2 grandsons, they tolerated her because she gave them 2 grandsons. If she hadn't have done that, she'd have been out.
And I think the fact that the mother-in-law spoke up for her was only because, okay, finally she's out of the house. She's not sitting up under us or on us all day.
I kind of thought she might have been jealous because she probably was oppressed too. And saw her, Nicole, getting a job and saying, leave her alone, because there probably had been a time when she wanted to step out on her own and maybe get a job or do something outside of her husband's control.
Right.
But even so, Nicole had so much more that she could have been doing. She was a lawyer.
Yeah.
So she's sitting there doing menial work when she could be practicing law.
Exactly. And who knows, part of that could have been too, because her husband was under the family's thumb so much and he really wasn't successful in his own right. She could have been trying to be less than, because and their marriage was already in a hot mess, but she could have been trying to stay behind the scenes, just so that she didn't outshine him. But one thing I thought of when I was reading it, think of it, you're a mother. She basically didn't have any input with her children. She didn't make any decisions.
No.
The servants did, and then even the servants looked down at her. And it's like they were spying on her, and she wasn't comfortable in her own home. She couldn't sleep well, and it's like, wow, that was some
she
kind
hid the
of like
knife under her pillow or under her mattress. She was hiding a knife. Yes.
Well, she started that after her run-in with Tomei.
Kanye. Yeah.
Kanye. Yeah. Okay. She started that after that run-in. She said she wanted to protect herself.
Right.
Right. That was quite a run-in. Nicole, do you think because of her prior trauma, especially the rape, that she also really had some mental health issues? I think there was some mental health issues going on there. She was away from everybody that she knew. No one cared about her. Maybe if Claudine, and that was one of the things that I was looking at, had provided some type of, she was a young child when she was raped. Would mental health, would that have possibly helped her in some way? Do you think early counseling would have helped prevent some of her discontentment and self-hate?
Definitely. Of course.
I think early counseling would have helped her tremendously. And if she had felt like she had a safe place to go.
Right.
And she didn't feel that. She, it talked about how when that happened, as I said before, Claudine sided with the guy, and then she got, Nicole got in a lot of trouble and all of that stuff. And I think sometimes when you go through something like that, just to know somebody believed you.
Yes.
Makes a big difference and loved you through it.
Correct.
Or I also think that part of Nicole's problem was when she met her husband in the UK, he seemed like he was a nurturer and he allowed her to be her. And then when she went to Nigeria, it was just a whole different story.
Right.
And she, I mean, I think of myself and how my husband has nurtured me and supported me along, all the years we've been together. But what if he had been one of those domineering,
right?
You do what I tell you. Oh Lord, we wouldn't have made it. Okay.
Well, I
No,
think
exactly.
also Nicole knew early on as a child that Claudine had killed this man.
Well, that's what
I
I was
don't know if
wondering.
she knew
I
that.
don't know if Nicole
I
knew
don't.
that,
I
Well,
don't
she
think
knew
so.
he was missing.
He
but
was
she didn't know
gone.
what happened to
Well,
him.
she knew he was
Right.
gone. Well, that's true. She may not have known, but she knew he was gone. And he came into the house that night because remember, Claudine told her to lock her door.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I think that would have helped her have a better relationship with Claudine had she have known that Claudine took care of the matter, because she really didn't feel supported.
Right.
No, she didn't.
And that's another foreshadow that you don't recognize until you go back and read it again.
Yes.
Because when she was on the plane and watching that movie, Unforgiven, or and it had a tree where somebody buried someone and she was thinking about when she buried him, under that tree.
I wonder if that tree blossomed more after she did.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was the primary reason Christine was not close to Nicole, because she had that secret and she did not want to share it with Nicole, to put that burden on her, that possible guilt that she was responsible, for this man's death, although he
she got
probably
rid of
deserved it. Yeah, she solved the problem, but she didn't want to tell this child, because she was still a child, what she had done to make her, an accessory to this murder. And that would have been just more trauma for the child.
Right.
I remember Maya Angelou in her book, something similar happened, and the family took care of the man. They killed that man who raped her, and she stopped speaking for a very long time.
Right.
Because of it.
Because of that. So maybe Christine thought she was helping by not sharing, and Christine was probably trying to suppress it her own self, what she had done. But every time you walk out your house, you see that tree, I'm sure it reminds
you.
And it was blossoming.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh.
There was one chapter in there where Nicole referred to Bilal, I think that's how you pronounce his name, as just a driver. And they kind of treated all of their help, all of the domestic help, they looked down on them.
Of course.
Do you think that in the end that played against Nicole, that didn't help her? Because Bilal, I didn't think he had her back.
Well, I think she knew he was loyal to the family.
Right.
And therefore she was afraid to let him know too much of what she was doing. And because she didn't want him to go back to her husband and let her husband know what she was doing.
Yeah, and in one instance, she said, "Oh, he's a very religious man," so she thought he wouldn't approve from that viewpoint.
Right.
And then another time, they tried to kind of buy his loyalty by getting the job for the brother.
For the brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that comes to one of the things that we were talking about. Who shoved Nicole? That was the big aha moment in the book for me. Okay, it was at the end.
I want to hear what everybody has to say about that.
Who shoved Nicole?
I don't know. Bilal had her hand.
And then he had an umbrella and a flashlight.
Right. And then she said she felt a shove.
Yes.
So I don't know.
And Bilal was in the book, they make it seem like he was the closest. He saw the ladies arguing. He heard the scream. And then when he looked, Nicole was gone. He went out and Kimmy had told him she fell in the lagoon. And to keep quiet.
That was a lie. That part was a lie.
That's what he told the story.
Yeah,
that was a lie.
He told, but that was a whole lie of what happened, because he was holding her hand with the flashlight, and then it said she felt a push. But I was like, I don't know if he pushed her or if somebody else was there. That's another sequel.
Well, you know, one of the things that I was, if you go back and read the book, when he was talking to Claude, and this is after, and they said Claudine after, he said, "May Allah forgive me." There was a portion, there was one chapter in there where he said, "May Allah forgive me." And Claudine said, "Forgive you for what?" And that was, remember when they were at the slave
when they went to the museum.
Yeah, the slave museum where they were there. That's when he said, "May Allah forgive me." And Claudine wanted to know for what. So he was a moral person, but he had a lot of guilt. So I'm not sure who did it, but she was shoved.
Yeah, and then he might have blamed her for getting, because he didn't want his brother to work at the place that she got him a job. And then he died. And so maybe he, you know, blamed her for it. We don't know.
Right.
Well, I know I was kind of taken aback to Bilal's mindset when they were on that museum, that island, at that museum, and he kept saying, "There's bad spirits here, there's bad spirits here, we have to go, we have to go." And so they don't believe all of that.
Yeah, the
like,
ancestors.
No. So
ancestors were coming to get him.
Well, that's when he said, "May Allah forgive me," when he was at the museum. And then that's when Claude said, "Forgive you for what?" So do you think there was some amount of guilt that possibly he was the one that pushed her, and he felt guilty about that?
Okay, I might have missed something, but I didn't hear what everybody said about who they thought pushed her.
Well, you know who I thought pushed her.
I thought Kimmy did it. I don't know why.
No, Kimmy had walked away.
But she could have walked
and got in her car.
Wait. Let everybody say who they thought first.
Okay, Kimmy was my thought.
Mine too.
Mine too.
Kimmy was my thought.
I kind of vacillated between Kimmy and her husband, because I thought maybe her husband snuck up there.
Oh, Tony?
That's true. You don't know.
So
why wasn't he at the wedding? The husband was not at the wedding. So
no,
but she was already missing when the wedding came.
Yeah.
What about her boyfriend, Elijah?
What about Elijah?
Yeah. Elijah.
Now his boat took off and was no longer seen, you know, because she watched his boat go away.
Right.
But remember, they also said this was the kind of weather he liked, and he liked swimming in that type. He was a good swimmer, and he liked swimming in that type of weather.
So Sam, who do you think?
I thought that Bilal, the driver, did it.
Okay.
Because he had her hand. Kimmy had walked back down the jetty. She was calling for him. He went and with the flashlight and the umbrella, that he could have shoved her.
But there were two stories told. One was that one. One was that one, and the other one was the one that he said he saw her fall into the water.
Yes, right. That's what he told Claudine. But then remember, he also said, "May Allah forgive me." Forgive you. And Claudine wanted to know, forgive you for what?
Could have been because he didn't save her, you know.
Yeah, because he didn't help her. He didn't save her.
He didn't save her. Could have been. Or he could have pushed her. Or
I don't know.
Kimmy could have pushed her, or
I'm looking forward to the second novel so we can find out who pushed Claudine, because it was right there at the last few chapters where the book really took on a thriller type.
It did, correct. And then it was dark out there. It's pitch dark.
Yes.
And wasn't it raining?
Yes, it was raining.
Lightning.
Yes,
it was raining.
Lightning was hit the pier there.
Yes.
That's why it was falling apart.
And then another question I had was, where was she at the end? because she said these people were speaking a language that she didn't know what language they were speaking. And she was familiar with most of the language or the dialect where she was living. So where did she end up?
She ended up down the lagoon in some I have
From
no
a village.
A village, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
some small village.
Mm-hmm.
So because that's really interesting. So she's pulled out of the lagoon by a family. She's lost her memory,
Right.
you know. So it's like, so at least she was saved, but she doesn't have her memory. So
well, that's going to make an interesting sequel because she's used to having everything done for her.
True.
But she doesn't have a memory, so she wouldn't remember that. She doesn't
have a memory, yes, but
she doesn't know if she was a servant or if she was the master or the slave. She doesn't know if she's married or not married, if she has children, in-laws, outlaws.
Right, right. Yeah, I think they are outlaws.
Exactly. Oh, they
Yeah,
surely
exactly.
were.
They were definitely
outlaws.
outlaws. And I wonder if they do find her or she gets any of, you know, if she doesn't have her memory and somehow they find her, will they even acknowledge her?
Thank you, Harriet. Will they just let her stay in oblivion?
Because I think, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they could let her stay in oblivion and people would be none for the wiser unless she truly regained her memory.
Right, right. Oh, I want to ask about the policemen though. Why the police, they don't help you at all, huh?
No.
Because they bought for by the rich. The rich control them.
They didn't help Claudine at all.
Not one bit. And I want us to discuss this. I thought it was because, you know, the title of the book, Nigerwife, and then when you find it's these group of women who quote unquote support each other, you know, because they've come from other countries and they've married Nigerian men, but I didn't find them to be supportive. I found them to be catty and
petty.
Yes.
Sam and I were talking about this Sunday, and I was like, these are some heifers.
Yes.
And then, you know, you see them kind of trying to help each other, and how that one lady, they supported her. But I mean,
they were something, yeah.
They were something else.
They surely were. They were pistols. You wouldn't want them as friends.
No. And then you had to keep up with the Joneses with him, you know. Everybody had to keep up with the Joneses with him.
Exactly. And if you weren't at your best and you weren't looking perfect that day, they crucify you.
That's right.
Even the birthday party. Remember how much pressure was on her over at the beginning of the book? The birthday party had to be perfect.
For a little child.
For a little kid.
But you know, one thing about other cultures besides the United States, when they have parties for their children, it's the party is as much for the adults, the parents, as the child. So it's like they put the invitation out. You don't drop your child off like at American parties. Drop your kid off with a gift, and then they just stay there. And oh shoot, you go and the parents have a party too.
You know, another thing totally different that I thought about. If you ever look on like YouTube and you see those African weddings where they're throwing money at them, I said that's the type of culture we were looking at, where it's all about the money.
Correct. It's all about the vengeance.
All about the they say the optics.
Yeah.
Well,
1,000 people at this. They invited 2,000 people, and you know, even going to pick out the fabric for the dresses was a big ordeal, and all of this stuff.
When they described mother-in-law's house, you know, and how she had it made like or decorated like a palace. They wanted to be kings and queens, and they had the money. They had billions.
Yes,
according to the book, they had billions. They could do that, And so,
exactly.
so
And
they
then
did.
the mother was called Queen.
Yes.
In fact, one of the quotes I highlighted in the book says, "Does it have to be Versailles every time? Why are we like this when we get money?"
Yes. Yeah, that was.
Well, you could say that about some people in America.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Going back a little bit,
Go ahead.
do you think that Elijah, were they using each other, Elijah and Nicole?
I don't think they started out that way, because when they were in England.
No, not Kanye.
No.
Oh, not Kanye.
Elijah.
The boyfriend.
Elijah.
Yeah. Yeah. She was using him, but she felt love from him, though. She felt,
and that's
herself.
what she was searching for.
Yeah, she felt herself with him.
Yeah, basically what she lost with Tony, she found in Elijah.
Right.
With Tony of when they were in the UK.
Yeah.
That's what she was trying to regain with Elijah. But
but remember that last meeting that they have, he became a little violent himself.
Yes.
And
he was
that
shocked.
was scary. Was that just their culture? The men are very domineering.
Yes. Well, he became very
controlling,
aggravated and controlling, just like her husband.
Right.
He knocked her down.
He wanted her to stay later and later and later at his house instead of going home to her husband and the kid. That sounds weird to say that, but he was like he was controlling her. He wanted to control her.
And not only that, when they were in the restaurant and she ran into her friend, I think her name was Emoy or something like that.
Yes.
And she didn't introduce him. He became irate.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, most men, knowing that they are the side piece, they would understand. But no, he did not.
And it was like he wanted them to get caught. He was always taking her to like restaurants and out in public,
Right.
like he wanted to get and on the yacht. He wanted someone to see it and get back to her husband, which he did.
I think too, part of his rage was because, and I believe it's because of his personality, he would push women away. So then they would leave him because they couldn't stand that. And it hurt him so much, it moved him to rage, because he's saying, well, yet again, someone has left me. I've tried to love them and they've left me. And he even made comment the day that he said it was over, and he threw the vase on the ground and stomped on the roses. And he says, somebody else is leaving me.
Right.
Something kind of like that. So I think he didn't know how to handle that
rejection.
kind of thing emotionally. So he figured he would just grab hold and not let go, just to keep from feeling that hurt. But his actions caused the hurt.
It was like a vicious cycle, and he didn't even realize that he was orchestrating it.
Another thing I just thought about, him wanting to be recognized or noticed as being with her. He is a little underling with no money, and he could take this rich man's wife, and he wanted the world to know that he could take this rich man's wife.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah. I think the whole book was filled with mental illness and self-doubt. Not enough love for self. No one was taking care, in my opinion, they weren't taking care of themselves. And when they did, especially like Nicole, she went about it the wrong way, in my opinion, by having that affair. And of course, by believing Kimmy.
Which was lying to her,
Yes.
Everybody lied to her. Everybody lied.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
Kimmy was not her friend.
Zadie finished the book before me, and the only thing she would tell me is that never have anything to do with somebody from Nigeria, because they all lie.
Hey, Zadie, it was a book about lies and deception.
Right, right.
A lot of deception.
Most definitely.
You don't want to be a Nigerwife.
No,
I'm not so sure I even want to go there at this point. It's a little scary because if anything happens, depending on who has the money,
right?
Would they, how much help would you get?
They had to be scared. They were scared of their servants because their servants would kill them. They couldn't go anywhere without guards or their own security people. When they went to weddings, at one point, the driver would get out with his AK, trying to get people to move. I'm like, that is crazy.
I know.
I'm gonna tell you, when we went to Nigeria, we had to have armed guards with us around the clock.
Yeah.
Really, Harriet?
Yes. They rode the bus with us, rode on the van when we went to different places. And at one point we were driving and this mob of people was coming toward our van, and the armed guards with the AK-47s jumped off the van. So I assumed that those people were trying to come and overtake us, and they showed that force and they dispersed. But the guards and our travel people said, never go anywhere by yourself. I don't care if it's 3 minutes from us. Do not go by yourself, because you are subject to be kidnapped.
Right.
So we can understand why Tanya was so upset with her for taking taxis and not using the driver. And he kept saying, use the driver. That's what he's there for.
Exactly. Because when you think about it, they have money and then they're kidnapping people all of the time, ransom, because it's, for ransom.
But in the end, I thought Tanya really did care for her.
Correct.
Yeah.
It came out when Claudine was telling him what she had found out. He was shocked and upset and very concerned.
Correct. I agree. And he may not have really known how much he cared. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes people find out the depth of their feelings when something's taken away from them, or you almost lose it, or you're in jeopardy of losing it. Why didn't you think about that before when you were cheating with our friend?
Right.
That part.
Really.
And I think a lot of his apathy and his disinterest in Nicole stemmed from the fact he was disappointed in himself. He was not living the dream he wanted to live. He was living his father's dream.
Right.
And he didn't know how to get from under his father so that he could have a life for Nicole and the boys without his father directing, micromanaging every move that he made. So I think he was so disappointed in himself that he could not give her that freedom, that life that they originally thought they were going to have when they moved to Nigeria. So I think that was some of the problem.
Almost
don't
definitely.
Excuse him for cheating.
No. Right.
It doesn't excuse him, but then you can understand, here's a man, he knows he doesn't have the means to provide the wealth that his father has. His father knows that. So his father demeans him, emasculates him. So he stays because he's tied to that status. He's tied to this facade that they have, and his whole life is built on this. So therefore, how do you even feel good? I think you have hills and valleys in your life, and a lot of hills and a lot of valleys, ups and downs, where you just don't even feel like you have any self-worth. So if you don't feel good about yourself, how can you generate a beautiful, healthy relationship for your family?
And his father favored his brother that died.
Surely did.
And then he blamed him for
the death.
Death.
Right.
Yes. So I was speculating as I was reading it. Their life may have been better had they stayed in the UK.
Right.
They would have been away from the father, and they would have been able to establish, maybe not with all the wealth that they had, but at what cost wealth. So I guess my final question would be, would you rather have the money or would you rather have the peace of mind? Because what she got, yes, exactly. For me, it would be the peace of mind. But what he got was the money. And that's what he was after. It wasn't necessarily what Nicole was after in the beginning. But he did not have peace of mind. He did not feel secure in himself because his father did everything and told him what to do and how to do it.
He had no
problems,
voice.
no problems saying how much they disapprove of that his marriage to Nicole, even after she was missing. Had no problem saying that.
I think they disapproved of her primarily because she was in Nigeria.
Right.
Correct. I agree. And he had no voice. And to be a voiceless man, that's sad. And if they had stayed in the UK, it's like, who knows? Would he have felt happy? Because it's like he just didn't believe in himself. If he did, the two of them could have created a beautiful life on their own terms.
Right.
Well, she was trained as an international lawyer, attorney.
You know, I wonder if they resented her education as well, because I don't remember the sisters having the same or as much education as she had.
Right. The older sister had education, was educated, I believe. But the one that was getting married, I didn't read anything about her.
Yeah.
Because the older sister, remember, had her own business and was managing.
Okay.
Whatever she was managing. And it was quite
she was unhappy too.
Yeah, she was very unhappy.
Because her mother, well, they all made a point of, talking about how she's unmarried and you got to find somebody for her and never celebrating, like Sam was saying, that she was educated. She ran a business and all that. They just,
so they valued marriage, but it doesn't matter if you have a business because she's a girl. So then, women are your girl, you're supposed to be married. It's just, thank goodness we have gone beyond that, because I mean, our culture used to be that way. Women weren't educated years ago. Only the boys were school.
Right.
Yeah, and in some part of the book, she even confronts her brother and tells him, "I'm more qualified to run Dad's company than you are."
Right.
But she knows it will never happen because she is a girl.
Exactly.
Right.
So I guess my final question would be, how do you think the storyline might continue?
I think we're going, it'll take, go ahead, Zadie.
Just her trying to find out who she is.
Correct. I agree.
But I'm hoping that it answers all of our questions about
who pushed her.
Who pushed her.
Who shoved her. They didn't say push, they said shove.
Yes. But all in all, it was a good book. Very, very interesting. You learned about another culture.
Right.
As well as learned about what not to do.
Right. Stay away from Nigeria.
Zadie, you are hard on Nigeria.
Oh gosh, reading that book, I was like, oh my goodness.
Well, don't paint the whole country bad because of this one fictional novel.
And I have my DNA done.
Listen to what Harriet had to say about.
Well, yes,
she couldn't go any place.
Yeah. I had my DNA done, and I'm from Nigeria, so I'm like, oh my god.
I was gonna share my story. I also had it done. Well, it was a gift from the kids years ago, and I had it done, and I just shared the results, and it was like, 30-some% Nigerian. I remember my son distinctly said, "Mom, why Nigerian? They don't think of them as crooks, think of them as entrepreneurs."
They're the ones scamming everybody, you know.
Yes.
The
Entrepreneurship. Crooked
Keith's family,
entrepreneurship.
they traced his family all the way back to the slave that was bought from Nigeria from the Igbo tribe.
Wow.
Wow.
That's why we went to Nigeria to go
Mm.
to the Igbo village where his family
Wow.
originated from.
Wow.
But
I haven't
I
got that
saw
far
those,
back.
and we visited some of those palatial estates that have the high walls, the guards, the barbed wire, and, you know, right outside, a block down the street, there's people who don't have running water and lights.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's
Right.
The disparity.
When
Yeah.
we were in
they
Egypt,
said
we had
something about
guards.
the water or the utilities were only on for a certain time. You never
go
know
on
when they
and
might
off.
go off.
Yeah.
The air.
That's another thing. At the beginning of the book, the body that was found in the water, and everybody just walked by like it wasn't anything.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was yucky.
I know.
And they left it in the water too. They never got
Yes.
them out. They just
Well, the police never did anything, and I think Tonya said to Nicole, "Why bother with calling the police?" Something to that effect, because the police were not going to do anything. It was just another body to them. So human life just didn't mean that much.
No.
So, well, thank you, ladies. I enjoyed the book, and I hope you did too.
We did. And Sam, thank you so very much for hosting the book. And again, the title of tonight's book club was Nigerwife by Vanessa Walters. So thanks everyone for tuning in.